There was once a time long ago where video games on consoles were designed to be pretty short. I imagine the limited storage space they had at the time played a part in that. The amount of room on an NES cartridge only had a few hundred kilobytes. Now, I have trouble sorting out which units of computer memory makes up others, so here's a video that might help explain just how little that really is. Turns out that's only a few seconds of an MP3. Home console games came about from video arcades that were popular from the time. That's why you have a lot of useless things like points and timers. Lives were another carryover from arcades. They gave you another try if you screw up, and if you really suck, you might see a continue screen. Now some games are more forgiving to bad players and gives them unlimited continues. The consequence for that might be having to start over from the beginning of the world or whatever. But some games only allowed a few continues, and if you didn't get any better, you'll be kicked out and have to try again from the very start of the game. It's like the game is saying, you can't handle these levels. I'm just gonna take you to these. If you get better, you can try again later. Before long, the developer started making games longer. RPGs had long stretches of gameplay where you needed to grind for levels or loot. Puzzle games began having more variety, and there was a new genre coming to console where progress depended entirely on what the player felt like doing. The sandbox. Sandbox adventure games have existed on home consoles before. There was Adventure on the Atari 2600 in 1980, but if it wasn't obvious, you could probably figure out everything to do before too long. Kinda? This new game on the block was The Legend of Zelda. It had a huge overworld. That's 128 different screens which you can explore from the very start, and most of them have a secret if you know how to find them. Not only that, there were 9 dungeons scattered throughout the overworld which you could explore and build up an impressive arsenal. Although the dungeon maps are smaller, when they're all put together it's almost the size of the overworld itself. And if that wasn't enough, there was also a second quest that changes everything around. This is a lot of stuff that you can do in any order you want. Surely the developers didn't intend for players to explore, discover everything, and beat the game in one sitting, right? In today's age, you can boot up the game and save yourself the trouble of trying to find where everything is by using the internet. I think that ruins a lot of the fun of the game, but that's beside the point. When this was released in the 80s, kids weren't spoiled with the conveniences that we have today. When the game came to America, it was the first to have a battery in the cartridge. It served as a way to help save exactly what you did and how far you got. There were games before Zelda that had passwords, but they worked differently. The way I understand it, you always started a new game whenever you turned on the console. The password screen modified the game into whatever stage and items you had when you got the password, and then you started that new game from where you left off. Zelda and games that came after it also had multiple files, so several players could have a game of their own. But what if the game was put away for a while? If you decided to come back and forgot how far you were, or maybe it'd be easier just to start from the beginning, don't worry. The game also had an elimination mode. With it, you can erase whichever save you wanted. All you need now is to give your new save file a name, and you're ready to go. There have been different kinds of saving methods over the years. You have the save point, which are specific things in games dedicated for saving your progress. It could be a room, phone, journal, floor sparkle, toilet, or whatever fits in the game. Probably one of the best is the autosave. As you play through a game, it keeps track of everything around you, where you're at in a level and what kind of equipment you have. If you see a little icon spinning in a corner of the screen, that's probably a checkpoint. That means if something comes up and you don't want to continue, you can just exit the game. And when you come back, you can pick up exactly where you left off. But you can also choose to start from an earlier point if you want, like an earlier level, or from the start if you'd like to fully re-engage in the game. A few years back, I decided to buy Assassin's Creed Unity on Steam. I didn't get around to trying it out after I built my new computer. I installed it and gave it a test run just to see how it ran on my build. I played for a few hours and thought that was enough. I'd come back later and actually play through some other time. 6 months later, I thought back to when I played the original Assassin's Creed games on the 360. That was the last time I invested myself into them. I wouldn't mind sinking my teeth into what the later games had. I booted the game up and... oh, I forgot I already started a game. I remember nothing from this. Where was I? Who is this guy? What was I doing? Some games don't have a title screen and just take you right into the game. Grand Theft Auto is a series that comes to mind. No big deal. I'll just pull up the pause menu and restart. Simple, right? Only when I looked through the settings and options, I couldn't find it. There was no way I could tell to start over. I could revisit sequences to replay earlier points in the game, but I had to manually select each sequence individually. As soon as I was was finished with a memory, I was thrown back into whatever I was currently at. Now, I had only played for a few hours, so it wasn't really that bad. But imagine I had gotten a lot further or even beaten the game. If I wanted to replay the game from the beginning, I would be forced to manually select each memory repeatedly until I got back. And this is only in the Animus. Don't these games take place in modern times? I remember the first 3 numbered games. The main character is Desmond, and he has to solve problems in the modern day by using the Animus to relive his ancestors' memories and figure out where artifacts were hidden and learn forgotten events and stuff. I don't remember if there was a story outside the Animus in Unity. For the sake of exaggeration, let me compare it to a movie. Let's say you have this movie on DVD. You watched it to the credits. Some years later, you come across the movie again and decided to rewatch it. You remembered enjoying it, that's probably why you still have it, right? Only when you put the disc in, it takes you to the credits where you last stopped it. You go back to the menu and select the first chapter, but when the chapter ends, it takes you back to the end credits again. So you have to keep going back to the menu and selecting the next chapter each time after time. It breaks the flow of the movie and would make the entire experience less enjoyable. I can understand and appreciate the convenience of starting where you last left off, but if you ever want to start over, why should you break the pacing of the movie or game or whatever? I had to look this up online, and I was surprised I found the solution from an archived Reddit post from when the game first came out. I didn't expect I'd have to take so many steps outside the game just to start a new one. You'd think by now an in-game option would have been added to make it easier. At least I'm not the only one who thinks that.